This episode of Out of Spec Reviews is brought to you by Magna. More on that later. Hello and welcome back to another Out of Spec Reviews video. Welcome to beautiful sunny Southern California and welcome to the new Toyota bZ4X. Join me around the back because the sun's a little crazy. This is the first time that I will be driving the bZ4X, as everyone's been calling it, the bZ4X. It means Beyond Zero 4, I'm not sure what that means, an X, I guess, crossover, not sure. Anyway, this one's the all-wheel drive version, and there's so much to get into with this car because there's differences between the front-wheel drive and all-wheel drive, not only in terms of two totally different battery packs, but also in charging performance and range and price, etc. So in this video, it's our typical first experience. You'll see me get behind the wheel for the first time. We'll drive it up in the canyons. We'll drive it on the highway, test the driver assistance functions. We'll drive it in the city, see if it has any one pedal features or how smooth the powertrain control is. I really can't wait for this because, in my opinion, this is such an important car for Toyota. So you join me at an Electrify America charging station where I have to start with some unfortunate news. So come on over here and take a look at this. We are at 68% state of charge. Charger's working just fine. Let's take a look. There we go. 24 kilowatts at about 66, 67% state of charge. Now, that may not be representative of the true theoretical peak charging speed we could get at 66% state of charge. It is somewhat chilly outside, although t-shirt weather, and I DC fast charge the car from about 30%. So I will just say on initial impression, high state of charge, cold battery pack, not great charging. You guys know I'm gonna give us a full DC fast charging curve on this car, everything warmed up. I'm gonna film that later on and we'll see. It was just a bad sign when I plugged into a 50 kilowatt charger by our hotel earlier today, and it said 7 hours to a full charge plugging in, and I'm like, okay, well, let's see what happens here. We have a lot to get into. Let me tell you a little bit about the car first. By the way, styling wise, looks, am I gonna say this? Good. It does look good. Everyone seems to hate it online, and specifically this one component, which is this body trim line. In person, I have to say, I said this when I reviewed my walk around of the Silver, when I already took you on a tour of the car. That video's live. This doesn't look so bad. Now, I will say, if you look at the car straight on, not amazing. In me, and you guys know, style plays no impact on how I feel about a car, or at least very little. You know, my colleague Jordan, it's the exact opposite. For me, it's all about the mechanicals. How does it drive? And well, at least the styling for this, if you come around this way, it's kind of big. If you told me this was the electric RAV4 that everyone's been asking for, then here it is. They should have just called it the RAV4 EV and just changed the body style for it. They would have, you know, had so much more excitement, I think. It's got a relatively large trunk. It's a big hatchback. I mean, you could easily fit some dogs back here. The seats go flat. This cover comes out. It's all good. It is all really good back here. So, while I may have criticized the styling early on when I first saw the pictures, yeah, not bad. This is very C40-esque, these lines back here. I mean, it's all for aero, of course, but I kind of like it. Now, this one is a maxed out all-wheel drive limited. So let me walk you through the price so you can have some reference for consideration. The limited all-wheel drive starting price is $48,780. Then this one has a weather package, so that means it gets heated rear seats and radiant heating. Let's see if we can actually see that. Come on over here. This is a really neat feature, only I've seen before in the BMW iX, and it means that this is actually heated, which is very cool. So it radiant heats your legs, which is sweet. What else do we have on this thing? We have the Jbl speakers, 500 bucks. Spoiler, 200 bucks for this. Premium colored, almost $1,000. DPH, which I assume just means destination prep and handling, and then MSRP of $52,050. So it's 52 grand for this one. I assume they're going to be hard to get based off of RAV4 Prime. Everyone wanted one of those. And yeah, so here's some specs for you. All right, ready for this? 72.8 kilowatt hour battery pack. That is different and an entirely different battery pack than the front wheel drive, which is only 71 point something kilowatt hours, 71.4. So there's basically about a kilowatt hour and a half difference between the front wheel drive and the all-wheel drive. All-wheel drive gets a bit more power, but then the DC fast charging changes. Toyota claims a 100 kilowatt DC fast charging rate for the bigger battery, but then the smaller battery, the front wheel drive, can do 150 kilowatts is what they claim. So I promise you, we will test the front wheel drive soon and run it through all the charging tests. Battery pack voltage seems low, nominal 355 volts, 214 horsepower. The motors are pretty much identical, 80 kilowatt front and rear motor, which is only, I think, 10 more kilowatts than the front wheel drive. Basically, they took the power out of the front wheel drive one and they make roughly the same horsepower. I mean, a difference of around 10. That makes almost no sense to me, especially considering that the Lexus RZ will make significantly more power, I think in the mid to high 300s, and they have their own proprietary e-axle, their own motor on the Lexus RZ, which will be the premium version of this. I don't understand the logic of putting two, you already have a pretty healthy front motor on the thing, just add the rear axle. So 50-50 torque distribution. Essentially, we're going to be trying that out. 6.6 kilowatt onboard level 2 charger for J1772. I'll show you that over here. So this is the charging port. Right now I'm juicing up because we got to get every last drop of juice in for our reviews and stuff today. But very plasticky, giant freaking handle here, or cover, and I already went through that when I walked around the car. What else should I tell you? It has a independent McPherson strut front suspension and a multi-link rear. EPA range is 222 miles. I'll be doing the 70 mile per hour highway range test with this car, so let's see what that does. And yeah, it's got USB-C ports, whole bunch of stuff. Basically 52 grand, bZ4X. Initial charging impressions, not great. Let's go inside. I want to talk a little bit about the infotainment system, which apparently is the infotainment system that is adapted only for the North American market, designed in the US. So it's very similar to the Tundra, which we've experienced. Let's go in there, see if it does any route planning, preconditioning. Maybe there's some settings I've missed, but 29 kilowatts at 66% on a relatively warm-ish day, on a relatively big pack. Not a good start. So it says a time to full charge of 3 hours and 40 minutes. Again, very initial impression. Coming soon will be the full 0 to 100% DC fast charging curve. Let's get the car on. So when we're plugged into a charger, we can click the power button twice, and then this comes up. It says activate my room mode. And I actually don't know exactly what that does, but I'm pretty sure that means we can run air conditioning or climate conditioning inside the car. Otherwise, it would just bring in fresh air. So coming here on the screen, the first thing, I would look for when plugged into a charger is, does the car tell me how quickly I'm charging? And based off of my experience this morning, the answer is I can't find a setting that does. There are some charging settings in here though. So if we go here and we go to vehicle customize charging, you can see here we have our charging current set to max. This is for level 2 AC charging. So you can pretty much do 32 amp, 16 amp, or 8, which is nice that they let you choose that. Then you can set your charging limit in 10% increments, I think from 40 to 100%. And then you can even choose 3 different levels of DC charging power. You can see I have it set to max right now. And you can go max, which would be 100 kilowatts in this car, 75 kilowatts, or 50 kilowatts. And the reason I think that's there is Toyota's focus for this vehicle is about longevity and reliability. They keep reiterating this to me and in their press materials, and they claim after about 10 years of usage, a 90% capacity left in the battery pack. Now, we've driven and torture tested plenty of EVs on our own and find that they actually hold up really well anyway. For example, our Tesla Model 3 Performance, which we have driven on track a ton, done a million supercharging sessions, have absolutely beat the crap out of it, and it's lost about 10% in 100,000 miles. So this should do a little bit better than that, but maybe at the expense of fast charging speeds, which I'm not sure I would give that up. Anyway, just a different strategy here. So, a lot of people are interested in this car, a ton. Wouldn't you say, Alyssa? I mean, we've done some digging around in our analytics, and it seems like all of you actually are searching for information on this car.
Yeah.
And I think it's really because of the reliability that people expect out of a Toyota. And everything feels nice on the inside. And I've already done a walk around, but like the seats feel nice, the dashboard, everything's screwed together pretty well. I'm not sure how I feel about this beam up here. You can see it's one solid piece of glass, but then they put this beam through the middle. So I wish this was just straight open, but you know, what can you do? That's fine. And you know, in terms of visuals, it's all piano black. This feels like it melted and fell away from me. This is really interesting. Every time I hit the brakes, I keep squishing the drinks because there's no way to lock this thing in. It has a bit of a resistance, but like, I'm like, oh, slowing down. And then it's like, ah, drinks squished. That's what I've noticed so far. And I've only driven the car a couple miles. So when I say this video, just so you know, is usually, this is my first time driving the car. Genuinely, it usually is my first time driving the car. I've driven this one about 5 miles. And so we'll still approach it as everything new that I'm experiencing. We just had to pick it up at the hotel and drive it over here and get it all charging. Wow, that guy is very close in the ID4. Okay, so what else do I want to show you in here? Not much. Wireless charger, which is neat. There's also a USB-A cable right here, but if you use USB-A, then you have to leave this giant flap open, and you just constantly have this thing here. Also, which is really neat, take a look at this. You can see through to your phone through these little squares, which is really kind of a nice touch. I actually love the seating position. I like sitting in here. The steering wheel's really not bad, although it does look a little bit awkward. It's very Prius-like, which makes sense. And here's what I wanted to show you. It doesn't show us any chargers at all. It shows us all the traffic jams. It actually, I was in the Mirai earlier today, and that shows you all the fueling stations, the gas stations. So it shows you hotels, delis, and then you can actually search for EV charging. So I can go here to search navigation. So EV, whoops, charging. So as I keep saying, and I misspelled that, EC, oh my goodness. Oh, at least it shows charge point, EV charge station. It got the idea, but it doesn't tell us, oh, that one says level 2 charging. It doesn't tell us if they're fast, slow, anything about them. If I click on this charge point, it just says, yeah, do you want to go there? That's fine. Also, if I want to go on a road trip, and it keeps coming up with this voice thing, I can go to recents and I could say, okay, well, I just put in Fort Collins like earlier today. Anyway, it doesn't do any route planning. Oh, wait, charging. Here we go. Electrify America, electric charging station, EV charging station, but it doesn't tell us what they are. But that's kind of nice. You can at least search for charging this way. Okay, I'll give it a bone there. Every EV needs 3 things before we head out on the road. It needs route planning, it needs battery preconditioning, and it needs plug-in charge. This car has none. So one last thing before we go. Actually, this is a little bit later on, but I forgot to show this. This is the included charger. It's a NEMA 515. It does seem to have some sort of adaptable plug-in here. And then it is a, let's just see, 12 amp capable unit, which is very nice. Lexus Toyota. So this might be the same unit that comes with the RZ or maybe even the plug-in hybrid Lexus stuff. So it's time to head out and go for a drive on this beautiful day. We're down to 19 kilowatts at just about 80% state of charge nearly. Toyota does claim 30 minutes from dead to 80%, and so, or maybe it's from 10 to 80. Either way, that seems more reasonable than what we're experiencing. My guess is just the battery's really cold. So let's stop charging here. Stop, boom, done. We put 10 kilowatt hours in 26 minutes. Woo boy, let's just hope this isn't a case for the future and it's just the battery being cold. No worries, we're gonna heat this thing up today. Here's the charging port, by the way. You can't just open the whole thing by clicking the bottom button like you can on some cars, but you can close just by hitting the top. And it just feels a bit plasticky. But again, this review is not meant to be a negative review of the car. It's just supposed to be objective. And you guys know I approach things from an EV standpoint, but I think the EV standpoint stuff's where it really kind of falls short. But in just my 5 miles of driving, I've been really impressed. So let me get the cameras in the car. Let's talk about the driving. And I think you and I are both in for a bit of a shock as to how good this thing will drive. You join me back at the office with these incredible views to thank Magna. Now, Magna is a technology company that produces not only parts for cars, but also technological solutions from manufacturing and design and engineering. They cover so many parts of the automotive sector, and I bet you've interacted with a Magna product in your life before. Magna actually is very near and dear to my heart because their partnership, Magna Steyr in Austria, produced my first car, a Mini Countryman, and it was built right there in Graz. A lot of you are also familiar. Magna's going to be producing the Fisker Ocean in their Magna Steyr factory, and they also build G-Wagons, and nothing gets tougher than a G. So really excited about our partnership with Magna, of course. They are also hiring for engineers, so we know a lot of you guys are super interested in technology and automotive. I'll leave a link below so you can learn more about possible opportunities at Magna, but of course we want to thank them for sponsoring today's video and being such a huge supporter of Out of Spec. Truly, they are pushing mobility forwards responsibly and sustainably. Hey, Alyssa.
Hey, Kyle.
Welcome.
Thanks.
So you're going to join on the first drive?
Yes.
You've driven this more than I have.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to make it a genuine first drive experience for our audience. So it's not, because I drove it about 5 miles.
Yeah.
Yep. Lot to talk about too.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, your impressions from driving it, probably about 20 miles so far.
It was very easy. I didn't really have many questions on what to do. I mean, I think the only thing I had trouble with is connecting my Apple CarPlay.
Connecting CarPlay? Really? Why?
It just wouldn't connect.
Okay.
The Bluetooth portion would, but not the Apple CarPlay.
Okay,
So.
but in terms of driving, as a driving review, pretty simple.
Yeah.
And I think that's where this car shines, because you've driven almost every EV we've reviewed.
Yeah.
And would you agree that this one just seems to be like, just get in, put it in drive and go? Not much fuss.
Especially with like all these buttons and stuff, it's pretty self-explanatory, and that's very helpful and easy. And I've also over time learned what all these different things mean.
Just from being in Toyotas.
Right. So yeah, and then just with the display that we have here, I mean, everything is just very simple.
And that's kind of, I think, the best part of this car is it is just an easy EV to own. You plug it in at home, you do your running around town. It doesn't feel overly premium. It just feels like you could throw the dogs in the back, and it definitely feels like it's built well from an interior perspective, just like every Toyota is. And yeah, no real complaints here. I think people are trying to compare it to those two cars in front of us, the Ioniq 5 and the ID4, and rightly so, because this car is priced right where those two cars are.
Yeah, I would definitely get those cars.
You would get which one of those?
You know, I actually haven't spent too much time in the Ioniq 5, even though we have full access to one. I don't think I've ever driven one.
Really?
But I've always just kind of been set with the ID4.
You like the ID4?
We just like the ID4, and it's just, I definitely need an SUV, so.
But surprisingly similar specs to those cars in terms of price, size, battery pack capacity.
Charging's way different, though.
Charging seems to be the big difference here.
Yes.
But actually, none of these three cars have plug-in charge, except the ID4. They claim it's coming through a software update, but it hasn't hit yet. Route planning. None of these three cars in the US have route planning, and none of them have on-route battery preconditioning.
Right. And why
What's
is that
going on here?
I don't get why it's so hard.
That's what I'm saying.
That's just like, what car did we have the other day where the backup cameras are just terrible?
Yeah.
Why is that a thing?
I don't know. But let's make it about the bZ4X, the bZ4X.
I would say the only thing that I did have problems with is putting the car in drive.
The shifter's a little weird.
Yeah, you have to like push it in and then twist. It's like, yeah, isn't the Prius like that?
No, the Prius has the little move, same as the Mirai.
It's still weird. You got
Yeah, there's a little
Toyotas
bit.
Toyotas have weird shifters.
I disagree with that.
Okay. Wow.
This one's a weird shifter, but I wouldn't generalize and say all of their shifters are weird. Let's not get into it. bZ4X. We're going to drive it. That's why we're here for.
Well, we haven't started driving.
It's our first review of it, really,
right.
Which I guess also necessitates some things away from driving. A couple different menus I can pull up here on the screen. The one that I'm going to keep us on is the all-wheel drive torque distribution. In theory, we should see 50-50 torque split under full load. I have no idea what the motors are. My guess is they're both permanent magnet motors, although I hope one of them is induction. And perhaps we can see that if we start to see it prioritizing one axle over another, my guess is the front motor would be considered the primary axle and the rear would be considered the secondary axle. We'll see that when we jump on the highway in eco mode. Speaking of modes, there's an eco mode on or off, so normal or eco. Then you have X mode, which is sort of their all-wheel drive control. You can say snow or dirt, and perhaps we'll have a video on our out-of-spec overlanding channel, or on this one, depends, of us doing some dirt stuff with it, because they claim it should be, this is like a Colorado car.
Oh.
And then we have deep snow and mud, which turns off traction control and all the good stuff. So let's just drive it normally in normal mode to start here in an urban environment. So foot on the brake, push down on the shifter, which puts us in neutral, and then twist to the right for D, which stands for drive for those of you who don't know.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Prindle.
Prindle. What was that episode?
Sweet Life of Zach and Cody.
That's right. One of the best scenes of any TV show.
Yeah.
So this lady stopped and now she's walking. Okay. So the first thing we need to try out is...
That human had a mask on.
The human.
A face mask of like an animal.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, weird things happen in California.
I guess.
That's why we live in Colorado.
Kind of the normal-ish part of California.
I don't know, another ID4, tons of EVs around. All right, so let's play around with all the stuff we need to play around with first, and I'll explain everything everyone tuned into this video for, which is all the nerdy driving stuff. So, lifting off the accelerator pedal, almost no regen, just a tiny bit, and I know this because that's here, it says turn on headlamps, but now my screens went dark. What? It thinks it's dark outside, and the screens have gone black, and I just have it in auto. Yeah, so I'm gonna...
Did you change it?
No, I think it just thinks it's dark outside. So when I turn the headlights off, the screens go back to full brightness.
Oh.
Okay, that's weird. Anyway, almost no regen lifting off, just a tiny bit. When I touch the brake pedal, then it adds more and then blends to friction brake. The brake pedal feels the same as any Toyota hybrid. And I would imagine a large percentage of our audience have driven Toyota hybrids before. This guy's like stopped in the right lane. He must be doing regen testing in his Abarth. Nope, he's just cruising at 10 miles an hour. What is going on in California today? So that's really interesting. Okay, so that's their startup key up setting is normal mode, lift off, very little regen. All sounds good. It actually says entering school zone. Very interesting.
That would have been very helpful for me.
You just got a ticket.
Yep.
Because you didn't know you were in a school zone.
Nope.
And school wasn't even going on.
No, it was like 5 minutes before the school zone went off too.
Oh, okay. Well, that's the second time you've mentioned that one ticket in an out-of-spec reviews video.
Yep.
There's another setting that I can click, which is this button right here that looks like a foot with a forward and back arrow. When I turn that on, the entire pedal map changes. I didn't move my foot, but if you watched, the entire pedal elongated. So where my foot was previously accelerating the car, it moved it back to where essentially that point was neutral. And that point will change. It just happened to be where my foot is at the time. So now if I try regen, there's an Alpha behind us, which will surely get upset with me. You can see big deceleration there. And by big, I mean more than before.
Yep.
Would you agree?
Yeah.
Okay. So if I'm cruising along, let's say we're doing 40 miles an hour and I lift off, more deceleration in this mode, which is great. Now, Alyssa, would you mind reading on this pamphlet that Toyota gave us because they want to help us understand how EVs work, even though we know. Read this second portion for us.
Hey, you're always harking on knowledge from the dealers.
You mean manufacturers?
Both.
Okay.
This section, I have to read the whole thing?
This thing right here.
The bZ4X features one pedal drive mode. This allows the driver to utilize a single pedal for both acceleration and partial braking. This can also maximize the amount lost kinetic energy by sending it back to the battery. Experiment with driving utilizing one pedal drive, but remember...
Stop there. they said one pedal drive and utilize the one pedal, right? And they're trying to have you understand how regen works. This is for auto journalists, by the way. The fact that auto journalists need this information is a whole nother topic. Continue reading where you stopped.
But remember, one pedal drive mode will not bring you to a complete stop. That's the whole point of one pedal.
I wanted to get your reaction.
Oh, well, that's it. That would make me very upset. I like one pedal driving a lot.
So let's try this out. We're merging over into where no one is right now. I've lifted off completely. I have regen boost on is what they call it. Even though we're blocking this road, that's okay. We're down to 9 miles an hour, 8, 7, 6. It's starting to blend in, creep at about 4 miles an hour. We're still coasting and rolling 3. And it seems to just be maintaining 3 miles an hour.
Is this really how fast 3 miles an hour is?
Yep. I mean, according to the car at least. And then to come to a complete stop, unlike what Toyota says in one pedal drive, I need to then use the brake pedal, which uses just friction braking below 3 miles an hour. What was that?
That's 2 pedals.
Yeah, so their one pedal drive is 2 pedals.
It's a 2 pedal, 1 pedal drive.
It's a 1.5 pedal. It's literally how every EV has been until permanent magnet motors went into the Tesla stuff.
But this is literally what they're saying here.
Yeah, I know. That's why I had you read that. Okay, so let's put that away because obviously it's not helpful.
No.
So no one pedal driving, which means in city environments. So let's just go to the right here. By the way, super fun to zip around in the city in this thing, I think. We haven't even tried the accelerator pedal. You get fairly okay regen, hit the brake pedal, it still blends more, even in regen boost. So it's not even like you get full regen off one pedal. But the brake pedal feels great. Its blending point feels really nice. Let me just try a little bit more on the braking situation. So we're let off, full regen, adding brakes. Oh, strong, firm pedal, really like it. Nice calibration. And same from the motors as well. The thing feels pretty dang silent. Let's do a turning radius test. Full turn to the right. That's fine. Full turn to the left. Pretty slow steering rack, but I don't mind that. So it's, you know, let's just see really quick here. So it's, we're at about a quarter. So it's 1, 2.5 turns lock to lock. But a nice ratio. And no real complaints about the inputs. In fact, it feels way nicer than I was expecting. Let's try some acceleration stuff, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay, so coming to a stop here. I'm just gonna mat the throttle in normal mode. Ready? Wow, ramps up at 30. It gives you full power.
Yeah.
Wow, feels good.
Yeah.
And it's just consistent. It kind of has...
Very smooth.
From 30 to 50 feels the best, and then it just maintains that power level, and as the speed comes up it seems to obviously slow down on the acceleration. I think it's 7.5-ish seconds 0 to 60, but it feels significantly faster than that. I could be wrong. Maybe that's the front wheel drive version, but again, they make about the same power.
Right.
Yeah, you wouldn't need any more than that. It's more than any typical hatchback SUV in this category that's combustion. Right. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I would love to do a drag race between this and the RAV4 Prime.
Ooh.
Okay, so there's also a auto hold mode, which you I think have to enable every time. When you come to a stop, now I can take my foot off the brake. You can see auto hold function is on, and then the hold comes up when it's actually active. Toyotas are known for all the acronyms, all the things on the display to tell you what's going on, and no different here. The ethos stays the same. So in terms of low speed city driving, I mean, pretty non-aggressive creep torque, throttle feels good, really good throttle pedal. I mean, significantly better than honestly cars that are so much more expensive, in the fact that it responds instantly, that it's a pretty good pedal travel length. It's a pretty short travel length, which I like, especially in lower power EVs like this. And it just feels like super fun to zip around in this thing. Like, yes, if you are driving your Toyota RAV4, right, that combustion, which probably, and you go to the dealer and you're like, I want to try that electric one, and you get in this and you start driving it around, you'd be like, holy smokes, this is the future. Right. And it really feels like they didn't skimp out on the way this thing drives around. It rides really nice on these sort of broken pavement roads. Wow, that's a cool old car. The guy's ripping it too. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It almost crashed into that mill truck.
It is what it is.
California.
Woo.
So we've successfully found out, even though there's no one pedal drive in the city, I give it a pass.
You get about, yeah.
I would say, like, if I just need to run to the store and do what normal people do with the car, like what we would need, go to the office and back, commuting,
Yeah.
in sort of our urban environment, this is a very great way to just get in, throw it in drive, not think about it, and still have plenty of power on tap, plenty of response, really good steering ratio, nice brake pedal feel, and a honestly pretty comfortable cabin. May not be the most, yeah, may not be the most visually appealing cabin, but it's so much better than in whatever photos they took of this thing.
Kind of reminds me of like being inside of an airplane, having this be like felt.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
I don't mind it.
Yeah. There's a lot of legroom here, which
Yeah.
I gotta say I enjoy.
It's all good. So what do you say we jump on the highway, we try the driver assistance, then we do our performance stuff, and we call it a first drive experience. Full throttle off the line. See ya, other Toyota. It's actually pretty quick, like at the low speed stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it.
Feels good.
Well, we're just about to jump on the highway, so I'm actually going to put it in eco mode because we've already done full throttle in normal mode and see how it feels. I'm watching the all-wheel drive gauge, and it's giving pretty much equal power front and rear, which is interesting. So typically with an EV setup, you have a primary axle and a secondary axle. Oh, I think I just saw it go front only there. And typically your primary axle is going to be where you get all the power from, and the secondary axle is going to be sort of there as maybe your highway assist, or it's there to serve another function. And very rarely do you see them become, used for the same thing. Although Volvo, Polestar 2, the XC40 Recharge, they don't do it in this way. Although I am seeing here pretty even, if I just gently roll on the throttle, it's just front wheel drive first right there, and then it brings in the rear. Yep. So it's primarily front wheel drive under cruising, which is interesting. What I don't know though is if the rear motor is a induction motor that can essentially turn off, or if it's a permanent magnet motor that you do need to apply some power to keep it spinning. And that's where efficiency might play a role here. Well, it does play a role here in their design. I just don't have the answer to that. So in terms of the steering wheel over the gauge cluster, it is a little bit awkward, but I can see everything here, which is wonderful. So let's turn on the cruise control. I can choose between dumb normal cruise control or adaptive cruise control. I can then basically set in the system to just do adaptive cruise or also lane centering. So right now we're on the full system. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 distance levels. Let's keep it on the closest here. And we'll go past our exit for a little bit, I think, and we're just lane centering.
Yeah, pretty good.
Pretty quiet too.
Very quiet.
I mean, it's on this really rough concrete surface, and I'm not hearing any wind noise here at 70 miles an hour. It does require a torque input. It's not capacitive. I just tried that there. But dead straight in the lane. It does not do lane changes. This is called Toyota Safety Sense 3.0, right?
Right.
And that includes, can you give a list of everything Toyota Safety Sense 3.0 includes? Which I'm not totally sure if it's standard, but this one has everything.
Includes pre-collision system warning with pedestrian detection, lane departure, alert with steering assist, lane tracing assist.
That's what we're on now.
Automatic high beams, full speed range dynamic radar, cruise control, and road sign assist.
Awesome. So I think we covered the highway bit. Nice, comfortable, suspension's good, it's the right size. Blind spot, pretty big in the back, but you do have blind spot monitoring. See that big rear, that big C-pillar back there?
Mm-hmm.
They did try and put a window as far back as they could, but it is a little bit of a blind spot. But yeah, cruise is nice.
Yeah, very nice.
Surprisingly nice. And
Very
yeah,
practical.
yeah, I agree. So seemingly a good, if you have a highway commute, this might be a really, really, really good option for that. Anyway, we're getting to the good canyon roads, so didn't notice any reduction of acceleration in eco mode, and yeah, definitely seems to go front wheel drive under light cruising. And the driver assistance was really good, seemed quiet, smooth. Honestly, the thing's shaping up to be pretty damn good.
Yeah, and when Kyle's impressed, Kyle's impressed.
Well, I think it's not even that I'm just like impressed. It's, oh, very nice McLaren. That all the guys come out here on the weekends to come rip, so we'll be in good company out on the good roads.
Oh man.
We'll see if this can keep up with anything. What I'm mostly impressed with was everyone on Twitter, all the Tesla owners, everything. They give this car so much crap because it's not. I know they give every car so much crap, but specifically this one. And I think, honestly, if you read the top layer of Toyota's press release on this car, it's Toyota's been a leader in electrification forever. And I guess in theory, they're not wrong because they've done hybrid stuff for so long, but that's not battery electric. This guy's literally drinking a soda as a cop walks up to him.
But look at the man spread on that cop right now.
Yeah, that guy's...
His legs are literally like this wide right now.
Okay, well, that's an interesting situation too. I think people are just disappointed in Toyota's approach when it comes to electric cars. They've built, without a doubt, some of the best hybrid drivetrains ever. They're insanely reliable. They just last forever. And honestly, they're really smooth and they work great. So we know they can do the hybrid thing. They've yet to prove themselves in the electric world.
Right.
And I'm not sure this car shows everything that's totally possible from a company.
No.
And, would it have been a better, beautiful olive green 992 convertible?
Focus.
Would it have been better for them to launch a electric version of the Lexus LS and say, here's everything we're capable of doing in an electric world. Give it big range, give it route planning, preconditioning, everything possible in an EV. And then sell 5 of them because no one even, at least in the US, buys an LS compared to its competition. Or does it make more sense for them to make a relatively price competitive, small CUV that everyone's buying, the hottest segment in the market? They know this market well. They have it captured with RAV4. And then just electrify that. And the answer is, I think they could have done more. This car it's going to be so many people's first electric car, right? And what is it doing to help first-time buyers understand charging? First-time buyers understand route planning. First-time buyers understand the different way you have to approach living with an EV. And based off of my experience with this system is nothing.
Right.
And I think that's a real shame. They chose the right car. They chose the right platform. I actually think it looks much better in person. It drives really well. And I think they missed the whole customer education portion. But thankfully, this system can be updated over the air. So can a lot of things on this car. And hopefully that will happen.
Yeah, over time.
Over time. So let's go up the canyon a little bit.
Yep.
Shred it hard.
Yeah.
And because everyone buying a bZ4X wants to know on-limit handling dynamics.
100%.
Yep, but I do, and I know actually our audience does as well.
Right.
So let's go have some fun up in the hills. It's pretty trafficy today, so we can't actually go that hard.
No.
Yeah, and just need to be mindful of kind of everyone else on days like today. Driving up in the canyons, it's always so important to stay between the mustard and the mayo, as I always say, on your side. But there's always crazies, especially out here. I mean, we've seen some real crazy stuff on this road. Mostly you driving the Sprinter up on 2 wheels.
I did great.
You did great. You were in roll. You're like, why does the car keep grabbing the brakes on me? I'm like, well, that's the rollover protection.
That's not true. You're fibbing.
Nope, that is true.
You're fibbing. I'm a good driver.
You are. You drive pretty hard.
Yeah.
Yep, drive quick.
I should.
As you should. I agree. I'm curious to see what you think of this, actually, as well. Once we're done, why don't you give us your take?
Okay.
All right. Ready? All right. Welcome to the canyons. Full power. Here we go. Let's see how this thing does.
Oh, Lord.
So, first off, very smooth acceleration. Very smooth. Let's just go down to low speed because there's a bicyclist here. Don't ride bicycles on crowded mountain roads. I'm sorry, but it's just dangerous.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just get down to 30 miles an hour. Ready? Floor it. Big power, and it just holds. Still floored. And it just feels so solid. Still welded to the floor here. Still floored. And it's so smooth. Okay, so from a powertrain perspective, you can't hear the motors at all. they're almost, you hear a little bit of whine, but it's almost dead silent. Really nice, actually, because in a case like the Rivian, the motors sound really good, and they're kind of trying to bring that out. This is like, let's be as silent as possible. So certainly enough torque. It's not fast. Don't think you're getting into like a Model Y performance here. But comparatively to ID4, I would say on par. Maybe not with the all-wheel drive, but definitely feels spicier than the rear-wheel drive. And which makes sense. That's 150 kilowatts is 160 kilowatts. This might weigh a little bit less though, because it just feels a bit more than that.
Right.
Definitely is more eager to get the power down, and it jumps a little bit harder. Gives you the EV thing, which the rear-wheel drive ID4 does not. Brakes, honestly, the pedal feels really good. It's right there. It's all good. There's no one really behind us, so you holding on tight. We're going to do a full brake test. Ready? And
A lot of noise.
so the booster is really loud. Every time you get into ABS in a Toyota, it flashes the stability control light, and the pedal just goes to the floor. No ABS feedback. It's just the typical Toyota spring. So pedal feel is good under light braking. Under full braking, you just stand on it and let the systems figure out what it needs to do. It's very similar to their hybrids, which is no surprise. So everything here feels pretty good. We just had a good run. Now we're stuck behind the Transit. I don't know if it's a single rear wheel 350 or a 250. Can you read that?
Filled with people.
Yeah, it's like got like 20 people in there.
Put on my glasses. It's a 350.
Oh, a single rear wheel 350 low top. That's rare. That's like the ultimate, like put 12 people or 15 people in a van.
Yeah.
Yep, and it's the EcoBoost one, which means it should rip, but they are not going that hard. Talking about other things we've noticed so far. Throttle pedal, wonderfully calibrated. I have the thing in normal mode. There's no like sport mode per se, but definitely when you hit eco mode, it's not really feeling like it makes that much of a difference. Not sure what eco mode does. May do some climate control stuff. All right, let's see if we can get him to pull over here. Headlights on to make this thing look a little bit more menacing. And yes, got him to pull over. Bit of hazards for the thank you. Hazard lights are in a perfect spot. And we come across a bicyclist literally running down the middle of the road, full power to get by before the Model Y comes. That's where it gets dangerous. These bicyclists, man, are crazy. So we have a suitcase flying around the back, but let's hammer it. Traction control cutting in there a bit early, barely heard tire scrub, and I could feel it kick in, coming in, standing on the brakes. Ooh, definitely went an emergency brake booster there. Just sitting it right on the edge of that tire. Full power. Wow, it does the thing. It's very soft. Another bicyclist. It's very soft. But it's, again, like using this ETNGA, the Tenga. I think it stands for Electric Toyota New Global Architecture.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah, I think that's what it stands for. You have the weight down low in the battery pack. I'm assuming a pretty 50-50 weight distribution because it feels very not front heavy, and it doesn't feel rear heavy at all. Feels really nicely balanced. And because the car is so balanced, they're able to sort of back down on the suspension a little bit and make it soft, but still have pretty grown-up handling dynamics. So if we start coming through these corners here, you know, just sitting at wide open throttle, the thing just kind of takes a set and it's good. Where it kind of gets a little bit less performance-y is when you get over these humps into things, you definitely get this float effect. But like here through the tight sections, wouldn't you agree? This thing freaking motors. And
It's fun.
It is fun, yeah. Wow, like good, really good. I would say more fun than an ID4 actually. An ID4 rear-wheel drive. I would love to put this against an ID4 all-wheel drive and see how they do. So far, no power reduction, but we've climbed thousands of feet of elevation already. And, you know, we've been stuck in traffic, so I haven't been that hard on it, but I've been in some EVs that overheat by this point. This seems to be pretty good so far. And back to wide open acceleration, still giving us full power. It's so silent, just gets down the road. What a wonderful road this is as well. We really need to tie down that suitcase in the back. Beautiful morning drive here. Here's where we're gonna load it up a little bit into this corner, okay? Just feel it right on the edge of that tire. And that's where it feels a little bit awkward when you do weight transitions just because it's so soft. So coming in under brakes, stuffing it. Traction control doesn't know what to do. It's like, I've never been driven like this before. I can just, and there's no way to turn it off, at least that I can tell. I saw like no stability assist off or anything like that. We have a Toyota brethren in the Tacoma over there enjoying the views. Yeah, we really got to do something about that suitcase. But here in the canyons, actually, like, kind of fun, and they could make like a TRD suspension for this thing that like lowers it, and honestly would keep up with some cars. It's a momentum thing. You got to kind of just stay in the power the whole time because it doesn't have crazy acceleration. The brakes are pretty good, although very brake-by-wire-y, very odd feeling. Definitely when you're loaded up and you touch the brake pedal and the thing has to do a booster to get into ABS, it definitely grabs harder than the input. So occasionally you'll have more braking force than what you're asking for. And that's just the case with any Toyota brake-by-wire system. Let's just try full brakes again, holding on, 70 miles an hour this time. Back to full power. So yeah, brakes feel really strong. Tire is our limitation. We're on the 20-inch wheels. I don't know what tire we're on. You smell them a little bit? Yeah, so we're maxing regen. In theory, the brake pedal should go in regen boost. Regen, touch the brakes a little bit, maxing regen. Now we're blending to friction. Yeah, I can feel the pedal going a little bit longer before we get the response. So, is the vehicle meant to be kind of driven like this? I would say kind of feels like they definitely engineered it to, because the steering is wonderful. It definitely changes direction quickly for how soft it is. And because it's electric, you can hear exactly what the tires are doing. So kind of just floating along here. Wow, I am liking this thing. Okay, back to wide open. So I guess we'll run all the way to Newcomb's just to say we did it. We got to get the picture. And we got stuff flying around in the back though. What is that like metal sound? It sounds like there's a toolkit that's open. I have no idea. Yeah. But still no power cut. Look, the power gauge goes to full still.
There's definitely a toolbox or something that's open.
Yeah, I would agree. So yeah, we'll just cruise. We'll find the next pullover. Let's tie everything down in the rear. And then why don't you drive us up, maybe not as quickly, and share your thoughts about this? Because you are, I would say, more of the target buyer for this car. Yeah. Obviously, I can review it. It's not for me. I can review the car for someone who would be in the market for a CUV.
I mean, I would be interested in this, but the price point is not where I'd be interested in. The charging is not where
If this started with a high 29, low 30.
Yeah, that's kind of where I see this.
It would be like, whoa.
Yeah, this would be a great buy at that point.
Yeah, it would be the number one recommend.
For 50 grand, no.
Well, think of it as more like 42 for a base one.
But who gets a base car?
I don't know. Who gets a base car?
Who would get a base in this car?
Yeah, I feel like EV owners are different. They typically go pretty high trim.
Yeah.
We saw this with Ioniq 5, right? Where Hyundai brought in all the base cars to the US. That's what they allocated. And then no one wanted them. Everyone wanted the limiteds, who were enthusiasts.
Right.
Back to full power. Here's a good section. See how it handles. Man, it definitely gets around a corner. And then, yeah, so the biggest acceleration is in that 0 to 60 range, and now it's kind of lacking. I mean, we're still just, come on, uphill, pulling, not even near triple digits, where in many cars, this is not a performance car, but...
And not that we'd ever be driving in triple digits
Not that you would ever see speeds like that on public roads. Oh, now we get a tiny bit of power cut. So we definitely have gotten it a little bit toasty now. I can see it not going full. But still, it didn't just fall on its face and go into turtle mode. Some cars just go, oh, I'm hot, and kind of freak out. This has very good powertrain derating strategies so far.
Is it really good, or is it really bad that it doesn't tell us that it's hot?
It does tell you that it's hot.
Okay.
It tells us by not going to full power. Okay. Whereas it's hit a limitation somewhere, either in the inverter, the motor, battery pack, connections. We don't know where the limitation is. But we're maintaining a pretty healthy pace, and I'm not even driving it that hard. We're just kind of cruising. Our projected range is pretty low considering our state of charge. We've burned 30% from the charging station. That is not a knock on the car. We've burned a lot more in other cars here too. So So yeah, let's switch right up here.
Yeah, you gotta pull over to do that though.
Yeah, well, we could just like do it while we're driving.
Oh,
that would be a bit probably not safe.
That would never be. I don't think we would be able to switch in the car while it's parked.
I'm gonna straighten it down. I really like the way this thing drives. I just don't know if I like necessarily the softness of the suspension, but like I said, Toyota released a TRD suspension kit because this thing has some street cred when it comes to the chassis. The chassis feels great. The steering's good too. All right, let's pull over here and do a driver swap.
Over there with the bros.
Yeah, we got your car group looks like regular traffic, yo.
Looks like
which is what our car group looks like.
Looks like Timon's friends.
Right. All right, let's do a swap.
You gotta hold my water bottle with your foot.
Ready?
Yep.
And drive. Oh yeah.
Make sure nobody's coming.
That's right.
All right, let's get it going.
You're gonna rip? Oh, I forgot to strap down the suitcase. That's okay. You're not gonna drive that hard.
No.
Great. So, share your impressions so far. What are you feeling? What are you thinking?
It's soft, it's floaty, it's comfortable. I mean, I really enjoy it. I really do.
Yeah.
I think it's a good car. I think your dad would like it.
I think my dad would like it.
Yeah.
My dad's a Prius guy.
Your dad is a Prius guy.
Yeah.
Which is not a knock to him, but kind of a knock to him.
Right. Well, the reason he bought the Ioniq 5 was because of the 235 kilowatt charging.
Yes.
Which is more than twice as quick as this car.
Yes.
And we don't know how efficient this is yet, and we don't know really its peak speeds because we haven't been able to test it. Multiple times I've been... Oh my goodness, you're actually kind of moving here.
Yeah,
It really does drive well.
Yeah, it's... I don't know how to kind of phrase it. Like, it's not hard to drive.
Well, you keep saying that. Most cars aren't hard to drive these days.
It's just hard to explain, like, to drive it faster, and like around corners and stuff. For a more novice driver, it's good. It's good for in the fact where you feel like you're in control, I guess is kind of what I'm trying to say.
Right. It's not anything scary. It's approachable.
Right.
For your average driver. It doesn't make it feel weird and electric. It just probably, honestly, is easier to drive than their combustion stuff or even their hybrid stuff because you get so much response from the accelerator pedal.
Right.
Yeah. You're actually not going too slow here. This is pretty good.
Yeah. This is my normal driving.
Yeah.
I do the same thing in the Sprinter with the dogs.
Yeah.
Got Ellie strapped down in the back. That's all she needs.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying the bZ4X. I'm actually, I don't think this car deserves all the hate online.
Definitely
what I think
not.
there is serious room for improvement, though, is in Toyota's communication on helping the EV crowd or the non-EV crowd, the charging. That's what lets this car down.
Yes.
But keep in mind, most people who will buy this car initially, it's probably a 2-car household. This will be their first electric car. And for a lot of people, they will not take this on road trips. That's just not a consideration. They'll either fly or take a combustion car.
This over, like, for the price, like this over a Bolt or a Leaf.
Yeah,
I mean,
way better.
Well, within like the charging and stuff, like the price point, what would you go for?
This. Well, Bolt charges at 55 kilowatts. This charges at 100.
You'd pay like an extra 25 grand for this?
I don't think it's that much more than those cars when you start considering spec for spec. Yeah. You're comparing base Leaf and Bolt in your head with the top level trim here.
I would buy this used.
You would buy this used?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't disagree.
Because I feel like it's going to depreciate a lot off the
Really?
Yeah.
It's hard to predict future market. If they don't make that many of them, they will actually hold their value pretty well. And at least for the first few years, these are going to stay expensive. Just because of market availability. Look at RAV4 Prime. Used ones are the price of new ones still.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah, I guess I don't really know the market that well, but I would personally think that, bikers, yeah, it's just not worth 50 grand. Never.
Okay, so what about a base one at 42?
Still.
Yeah, don't tailgate them.
I don't know what to do with them.
Yeah, just stay behind until we see more room to pass. All right, final thoughts behind the bikers? I'd leave more room if you can. Okay. Final thoughts?
I like it. I enjoy it. I wouldn't pay for it.
Okay. I say if it leases well, sure. It's a great taste for EVs. It looks way better in person than it does online, and specifically maybe it's the high trim. This one in red actually looks really good, and red's not my favorite color, but I think it pulls it off well here.
Yeah.
I like the two-tone approach, the black roof accents on the top. I think it drives very grown up. You can tell Toyota knows what they're doing to make a car drive, not necessarily sporty, not necessarily the smoothest. That guy was scraping me almost. He was ripping. And that's why you don't pass bicyclists when you can't see, because you don't want to kill that guy. Yeah. And I think overall,
we like it.
Overall, very positive. Charging and customer education in terms of this EV, how to find chargers, route planning, these should have been in the car at launch. I think that's inexcusable.
Yeah.
But I think, if they lease out well, why not?
Yeah, if they do lease out well, yeah, I would consider it.
Yeah.
Depending on the market with other cars.
Yep.
Would I take this over an ID4? No.
ID4 is definitely more premium.
Yeah.
Feeling.
But I feel like the room and the glass roof, I mean, it's...
But there's a lot to be said for just knowing this is a Toyota, and we already know the ID4s have quite a few software bugs.
Right.
Yep. And so there you go. That's the end of the review. Our first drive. We'll have more coming to you on this car. Plenty more coming to you. And I would say my expectations have not only been met, but far exceeded, because I came in with low expectations. Great. Thanks for watching another Out of Spec Reviews video, and we'll see you again on the next one.
Bye-bye.